Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today at the Rome River Art Center. We're doing a lesson today with drawing, and we're going to be doing it being inspired by an artist named Richard Holzschuh. Richard was born in 1889 and died in 1968. He was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Mia did a beautiful retrospect of his work in 2016 called Storybook. This is where I really learned about this artist that I'd never heard before about, and really got excited to see all the amazing work he had. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be working on a couple of elements of art. We want to focus on line, and you'll see why, and texture. So Holzschuh was more of an illustrator. He painted, and he worked at a day job for Standard Oil, for over 50 years. And so he was working a day job, and he'd come home and he'd draw at night. He'd paint at night. He'd even draw during work sometimes. He got different jobs for illustrating Standard Oil, different calendars and things like that. So it's kind of a fun for him to get to practice his work. I'm going to show you a couple of things. This is the work that he did when he was for Mia, when their exhibit, the Mia exhibit, and there's some different pictures here. This is kind of cool, where you can kind of see what they did. And why I love this exhibit so much is they hung all the pictures at kids' eye level, not at adults' eye level. So being short was perfect for me. It was at my eye level. So one of the things I really liked about it is we got to learn a bit about Richard Holzschuh. He was very shy, but he did these amazing, I'm going to see if you can see these. He did some Christmas and greeting cards he did for family members. Fun, detailed, highly technical work that he was able to do. I'm going to share a couple of things he did, and then we're going to get into our lesson. And this is one of the different ones. He did illustrations for different storybooks, and you can kind of see his work. His trees come alive. All the hills are for little animals and things. It's just amazing. We've got one, looks like Little Red Riding Hood and the wolf in the background there. You're going to see all the detail he put into all his trees. And one of the things that we're going to look at as we do this project is when we draw the trees, let's not just draw symbols of trees. Let's bring our trees alive like Richard Holzschuh did. They're just amazing. Each tree has its own personality. I'm going to give one more here. It's just like those trees there have their arms. They have these long fingers. They have where there's knots, it looks like they have their eyes. They got some funny hair going on. Pretty amazing. All right. So those are some of the pieces, and I'm going to show you a couple that I like too. Is like this one here where he has some sort of dwarf elf type creature riding a bat. He has these amazing trees. They look like they're getting ready for a dance. But even the work in the background, incredible. He also liked to do these kind of storybook type places, these castles. And this one's pretty cool with the big mountains in the background. And here is what we're going to work on today. This is today's project. It's this kind of crazy old dilapidated house in the background where we've got few trees in front and some trees in back. It's a really fun drawing project for us. So I'm going to go ahead and tape this one up on the board. If I can find my tape somewhere. Okay. So what we want to do is we're going to start this project by just coming and we're going to draw this line that is where the house is. It's kind of a third of the way up the page, and this is where we're going to start. We're then going to come and we're going to work on these front big trees first. We'll do our little walkway, giving it a little bit of perspective here. We'll do our house, and then we'll do the trees and area behind it. Okay, so we're just going to go step by step through here. So step one, get out your paper, and here are the materials we need. Your paper, get some pencils. I'd like you to have like a soft B pencil, like a 2B, 4B, 6B, a wash pencil is good. And then we want, for some of the detail, I'm going to have you use an H pencil. You have two H's, an HB might work to get a little bit more texture. We're also going to be working with a blending stump. Now, for you who want to know what a blending stump is, just this paper stump. And you'll be able to take areas like this, and you'll be able to blend the soft pencil with the blending stump. It has no color itself. Okay? And then I'd like you to grab a thin tip Sharpie. And where are all my thin tip Sharpies? I'm going to grab one here, see which one I'm looking at. Thin tip Sharpies are going to look more like this. Have a fine point. Okay. You can decide to do this all in pencil, or you can add with Sharpie. This one here I did with Sharpie and with pencil, kind of a combination. So step number one, again, we're going to draw the line right about here, come across. Just come across nice and soft. We're going to cover up most of that line. So we don't want to have it too far forward. I think that's a little bit higher than I wanted to be. I'm going to bring it down just a little bit. About a third of the way up. Great. Okay, everybody's got that line? Super. All right, so now what we want to do is we're going to come up close here, and I'm just going to kind of get an area over here and another area over here. And these areas are going to be where I'm going to start my trees. I want to start with a trunk, and let's just sketch them out nice and light, and then we'll add more to it. I always like to get the shapes first and then add the details. So I'm going to get kind of an idea where I'm going to come up and bring this, just kind of bringing a line up of my tree. It can have some different kinds of shapes to it. I'm going to end it right about there. So I get that first line of the tree. Then I'm going to start filling in. I'll come from this side here. Say, okay, I'm going to just kind of come up here. And I'm using kind of this feather line. I'm going to kind of add some shapes here. And then maybe some branches. So you can go ahead and add some branches. My branches, the tree I'm kind of coming towards, is one that's going to be more coming to life here. And I'm adding his limbs almost. And they're truly limbs. So I've got a couple going on there. You can kind of see, getting the general idea. I'm going to come back, finish his roots. Okay, so that's kind of tree number one. And then I'll just add a few details right now, and I'll come back to it when I'm a little bit farther along. So when we're looking at this, it's kind of the odd rule of having 3 trees is better than 2. Kind of creates more interest. Having the dynamics of having 3 trees kind of splits your attention and makes the viewer look more at your picture. So what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to come and I'm going to create my first tree by coming up, just coming up, and kind of, so you can see I'm going to bend it a little bit. And this one's going to come up. This is going to be my higher of the 2 trees. So I'm going to come up right up to, and one of the things I forgot to mention too So I always like to date all my pictures and put your name on it. So I got my name and I got the date today. The date that I'm doing this is 4/10/20. So go ahead, and this would be a great time for you to add your name and date. As I'm looking at this, and I got my basic tree here, and I'm going to do a second tree, and I'm going to change colors for the second tree just so you can kind of watch as I come behind here. So what I'm going to be doing, I'll try it with my green. I'm just going to have it so it starts over on this side, and then it's going to come out, and then I'm going to have it coming back on this side. So it kind of comes around. You can just have it start on this side or this side, but you want to see that the second tree is behind the first tree. Okay, so I'm going to have it come out here, and I'm going to add its limbs. And I'm going to add the top of the tree, come up with some of these. I think each one we kind of look at seeing how we can make it individual-like. So I'm kind of just doing the general shape now. I'm going to come back and work on that first tree that I had up here. I want to add these limbs, and I'm going to go right in front of the first tree I had, this green tree, because the black tree is in front. So then I'll come over and just add some of the details. I'm going to come back to these, but I just want you to get the idea first as I'm coming over here. Okay, so now I have the two trees on this side. I have a tree there, so I have my three trees kind of set up. Now I don't want to come back and do all the detail yet. I want to kind of set up, and I'll come and I'm going to work on the house, placing the house and the sidewalk, and then I'll come back and add some more details to the trees. So we're working more with line, and then we're going to come back. So we're doing the element of art of line right now. We're going to be coming back and adding texture. That's where we're going to start seeing our little trees, our big trees, coming to life. So let's start with doing a house, so that we're going to start, and I'm going to start here with the door of the house. I know that sounds a little unusual. You might think, oh, well, let's get the whole thing. But let's go and let's start with a door. And this is the whole entrance here. And then I can put a door inside here to open up. But then what I'm going to do, so we start with the door, and I'm going to come around it with this kind of dome shape like this. So come over with a dome. Now this next thing we want to do is we're going to add to this dome by coming up and adding another layer to it. Think about this as almost like a layer cake. I then come in a little bit on this one. The first one I went outside. This one I'm coming inside. And the top one I'm going to do the same thing, kind of coming inside. And then from up here, I'm going to add, I'm not even sure, it's kind of a lightning rod type thing. Maybe that's where he does all his experiments in here. And then I want to come over here, and I'm going to do the side. Come down. I'm going to come over here. Coming down. Here. Come down. So we want to kind of get quick little steps. So you can see that I just come in, creating this shape of the house and putting it out here. Now, how far away is the house? Is it huge? Is it small? Is it like a gingerbread? So to try to get that, we want to get a little bit of scale. To get the scale, what we're going to do is we're going to add this sidewalk. So the sidewalk's going to come from here, and I'm going to bring it out like that. And then this one, I'm coming in. So you get an idea that maybe this is a long distance to get all the way up there, or a longer distance. And then we can add some more details into the stones here. Now I'm going to show you this picture here where you can kind of see this walkway where you create some stones and give them some real kind of texture. So we're going to try to do that with this area here too. But we're going to come back to that in a little bit. I want to continue with just now looking at, we have basically all our areas. We want to do a little bit on the side of the house. It used to have a fence. So I have this fence that's fallen down here. It had a so you kind of have added a few lines back here. Now, one of the things we might want to do at this point is to give an idea of how big this is. Let's draw some evergreen trees. So I'm just going to kind of come and draw some trees back here. And I can use my pencils. I want some overlapping trees. So again, I have like 3 trees back here. I might have just one over on this side. Just getting some things. And you can see now, by adding those, we've kind of created a farther distance. It's making that the rule of perspective. As things get farther away, you make them smaller. So as an example, maybe we want to create a person up here on this, and then this is kind of a railing. So I come over here with these railings, and I put my person up here. So we get this little guy. I don't even know if you can see him very well. He's right up there on top. So with these little things, this is how we kind of create the idea of scale. So what I will do now is I'm going to add a few little windows. I'm going to erase some of my lines to get rid of them so you can kind of see how things will go. So now the next thing I want to do is I'm going to come and I'm going to start working up front here and work on some of my trees again. So I'm kind of coming back and saying, okay, I want to do some more work on the trees. So I'm going to show you on this one that I'm going to use hatching. Hatching is when you come little lines, parallel lines. Cross hatching is when we cross over. It's a little bit hard to do it with markers like these, but we'll give it a try. So what I want to do is kind of bring that there's a roof here, and I'm going to come, I'm going to give it some texture with cross hatching. So I'm going to come with bringing these lines across. I go hatch, 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 hatch. Hatch, 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 hatch. So I'm doing the hatching now, cross hatch. Just kind of coming through here. And I'm going to do a little bit more up here, creating a little bit more of that. And then I'm going to have some cross hatching going on over here. And I just kind of come across and come over here. Now I said, of course, I was going to do the trees, and what do? I go right to the house. I forget anytime I'm working on things. That's okay. So I think we'll start with the house and we'll come to the trees. So then I've got my door, and I want to kind of come and have a little opening with the door. And there's wood here. So we can create some fun kind of things with this door. And I'm going to give, this is kind of a rounded, so I'm going to kind of round some of these lines here. Just to kind of give it that feeling. And my lines are following the curve, so we get that feeling there. So you get that lines like that. We're going to come over here with some okay, so we're not dealing with a flat house right there. Cool. That gives you kind of an idea of some of the little things we can do. Let's take a look at the tree. Let's see if my brown marker works here. So I'm going to kind of come, and I want to give some texture to the tree. So I'm just going to come in with these bark lines, and I'm going to use my pencil. Now, a lot of times when I'm working on this, after I've got my pencil done, and I know it's going to be pen and ink. Let's just say we decide, okay, this one's going to be pen and ink. Then I would go in and do all these hatch marks and things with pen. I just go, once I get my basic outline down, I'll go and I'll do the detail work with my Sharpie, and I'll just make it all work there. So I'm just kind of coming in here. And now I'm going to go ahead and add some more little details where I like it on the tree. I'm coming in, and I'm just going to keep working this through, kind of give this tree. And then here, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to make this, give a little personality. I want a couple of knots over here and maybe one right here. So we get kind of a look of something. And just let your pen or pencil go where it wants to get you kind of idea of where it is. And just add all your little details. And then you want to come back and do the same thing on our trees over here, where you can add the different elements to each one of them to create however you want your trees to look. One of the things, like I said in the beginning of this lesson, is this is your chance to bring these trees to life, to give them their own personality, give them names. Like this one looks like a Joe. And the one right here, it looks more like a Marie. So I'm not going to fill all this in, but you're getting the idea. I'm using hatching. If you want to get where the light's shining, you can do some cross hatching. But you're just going to come and work on the texture. Now, there's certain lines that will just say this is where this drawing wants to go. So we get kind of that idea there. Now, what I want to do is you want to finish up the trees. You can add some more details. I'm going to do a little bit of the stone walkway so you can get kind of an idea of how that works. I'll see if this blue pen will work on that. So actually, I'll do black and blue. So what you want to do is you want to start by adding some bigger like stones, because this is what we're going to be saying is pavers. That are going to be going. Now, one of the things I'll show you is they're going to start big there, but they'll get really tiny back here. So I'm going to continue big. And you're just going to continue all the way. I'm going to start transitioning to making them smaller. So you get over here, I'm going to start going. This will give you that whole illusion of distance. And I just continue to add. I'm going to do it as quickly. So we add these rocks, and I'm going to take and do some of them so you can kind of get an idea how to get more of a 3D look at them. So what I do then for those is I'll take and I'll start coming down from this edge here, and I'll add my color, giving it more that I can see that this rock, I can see the front half of it comes down. You get kind of the idea of what I'm doing here, is that you kind of come where these rocks will come pavers. I'm just kind of coming where I can see that there's these areas here, but you get a kind of an idea of how you're creating this kind of 3D effect with all these pavers down here. And you'll do each one of these till a certain point where it becomes a little less obvious. Now, one of the things we can kind of do is we can add some other details in the front. You can add some dogs, cats, different kinds of things. Create your own story. But this gives you kind of the beginning of an idea of a whole group of storybook type projects you can do, creating the house, the trees. Everything has got its life of its own. That's kind of what we wanted to look at. So kind of reviewing, this was inspired by an artist named Richard Holzschuh, and we used elements of art, of line and texture. We're basically doing it with pencil, maybe a Sharpie. Every once in a while, we might use an eraser. I rarely use erasers. I like to keep most of my lines on the picture. I might erase after I've done a Sharpie and kind of finish it up. I just wanted to thank everybody for joining us at the Rumber Art Center for this great drawing lesson, being inspired by Richard Holzschuh. Thanks a lot. Thanks.